So here we go. Let's do a carbon clean. Hello and welcome to another episode of Warhammer Motorsport. My name is Oliver. First things first, we've gone through the diagnostic process. We figured out that this Misfire was a fuel injector. Step 2 was removing that fuel rail, changing out the injector, putting the fuel rail back on. Now, as we were doing that, we found there was a little bit of carbon buildup on the valve. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and clean that up today. In part 3, we're going to use walnut shells and some high pressured air, and we're going to go ahead and clean that. I'm going to show you how to do it. This is my first time doing it, so if I make a mistake, I'll let you know about it so you don't make that same mistake. So here we go. Let's do a carbon clean. Okay. First things first, we need to cover everything that is open. You don't want any of this to go into the intake, into the turbo, into any place, right? They can get in there and do some damage. So what we've done is we've plugged our intake pipe here. We've plugged our throttle pipe here with a cover. And then this right here, this tape is covering the only cylinder that the valves are open, okay? So our valves, let me grab my light here. The valves are closed here, as you can see. The valves are closed there, and the valves are closed there. These ones, I already put tape on it, but the valves are open. Once we've done these 3, I'll show you that they're open. All right, so we plug that hole, that hole, that hole. We put this back together, so we don't have to plug these. So next, what you need to do is you need to get these walnut shells right here. You can get these at Harbor Freight, and you need to get the fine ones. Don't get the coarse ones, get the fine ones. They work the best. Now, this is also from Harbor Freight. It works really, really well. So no need to go break the bank on something when you can just use this. You fill this with the walnut shells, and then this gets blasted in utilizing the air, as you can see right there. And then the last thing is the shop vac. Now the shop vac has this adapter right here. It's got a hole in it for the high pressured air to blast the walnuts through, and then everything gets sucked up in there. So I'm gonna go ahead and set everything up, and we're gonna go ahead and start blasting. All right, so after 5 minutes, look, you can already see that it looks really good already. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a pick tool, and I'm gonna go ahead and clean up the last little bit. All right, so it's been about an hour or so. I've scraped, I have sandblasted, what are these, walnut shells? Walnut blasted. 2 of them are looking really, really good, and I'm working on the 3rd one right now. So let me show you the progress. It's pretty night and day, so let me show you. That's really good. That's really good. Mind the light. And then this is the one I'm working on currently. You can still see there's a lot of crust in there. So I'm gonna keep working. Once it's done, I'll let you know, and then we'll move on to the last one. All right, so we're not at the end of part 3 just yet because we haven't put it back together. But I have done 3 cylinders and they are looking really, really good. So all of that worked. We're gonna keep on working. I'm just gonna close up tonight. It's 11:30. I'm gonna go home, wash my face, eat some dinner, and we're gonna hit it back up tomorrow after work, finish that last cylinder, and then we're gonna put the manifold back in, start her up, and hope she runs. All right, work's over. Playtime begins. We are gonna finish this carbon clean, and I have a new technique. Let's do it. All right, so hopefully this is the last night that we are doing this and finishing up this carbon clean. So I've got a new technique for you. So we did the walnut blast yesterday, and it worked pretty darn well. Now, I was speaking with some of the guys that work here in the shop with me, and they gave me another technique to try. So if you don't have access to a walnut blaster like we had last night, this might be the best choice for you. So things you're gonna need: zip ties. Next thing you're gonna need is a drill. And then the next thing you're gonna need is a can of gas, right? Any old 91, 87, whatever, gas. If you don't have access to the walnut blaster, this is for you. So let's do it. We got a can of gas here. We got a little, I don't know what you would call that, but we can use that to scoop into the cylinders. I'll show you the zip ties in a moment, and we've got the ones that are already done, already plugged up with tape. So let me go ahead and we'll turn the light on here, and I'll show you what it looks like. So right now I have fuel chilling in that cylinder, right? It's eating away at the carbon that's in there. Now, if this was clear, if that fuel was clear, you can see all the way down to the bottom, that means the carbon is completely gone and it's all clean in there. But as you can see, it is dirty, so we need to clean it. All right, so this is my drill, and this is what you do with the zip ties. All right, so you're gonna use several zip ties. This one's about 8, I think. This one's about 8 zip ties right here. You're gonna use 2 to cinch it down like that. You can move this to move it up or down depending on how spready you want the zip ties to be. You put it in the chuck, you tighten it up, and then so we've done a round of that. We've gone ahead and drilled a little bit. Now, when you're drilling, you want to rotate one way, but make sure you go the other way as well, because it'll all build up on one side. If you do the other side, it will unbreak it and it'll come right out, all right? So it's working pretty good. It is a little bit more tedious and a little bit slower than what we did last night, but that's okay. Good thing we only got one left, so I'm gonna keep working at it, and when the end result is done, I will show you. All right, so there we go. You can see inside of there that everything looks really, really good. This is that technique that we used with the gasoline. So it turned out really, really nice. And then all the other ones we used the other method. What we need to do now is put it all together and finish this trilogy of the Misfire. We diagnosed the Misfire, we swapped the injector, we did the carbon clean, now we're putting it all back together.
If we are one grain of sand in the middle of the ocean,
Okay, day 4 or 5, I don't know. We're gonna get this back together and we are gonna start it today. We only have a couple things left to do. Throttle pipe, new spark plugs, get the fuel out of the cylinder, change the oil, put the intake in, and we should be able to start it. I had an issue with the high pressure fuel pump, but it's in now. We got it all sorted, so we're gonna finish it up and we're gonna start this thing and make sure that the fix we did and the carbon clean, everything went all smooth. So let's get back into it.
These skies have us stuck down, feeling paralyzed, but I'm up now. We all too late to fall. Yeah, anyone coming, I'ma lift them all. Never look down when it's risk involved. I got guts, got a lot, I gotta wish it all. Ain't got no feelings, we just floating. Yeah, I'm that grain of sand that made it out the ocean. A couple milli now, I'm causing a commotion. I've been coasting, hear my name around the world like an explosion.
So rise up, rise up. We are the apocalypse, and a pill that keeps us floating. As we fly above the stars, the hype won't scare us falling. So rise up.
All right, one last thing to do. That is drain the oil, refill it, and start it. Oh, that's a button. Push the button to start it. Let's hope we don't have any leaks. All right, now that the fuel pressure is built, the car started. Nothing weird's coming out of the back. That was no shit the first time we started it. So the first time the pressure was building and then we started it again and it chugged along and it's doing okay. I'm gonna check the codes, make sure we don't have anything glaring at us, but it's running all right. All right, we did it. We finished it. No codes, and it's running pretty good. I haven't romped it around the block yet to see exactly what it drives like, but I will say this: idle is super clean. And then when I revved it up, everything was good. We had no fuel leaking anywhere, so super excited and super happy that we were able to complete it finally. So let's break it down and let's go through the whole process. Part 1, we did the diagnostic. We figured out, hey, I got a misfire. We swapped the spark plugs over. We swapped the coil packs over. We checked the condition of the spark plugs and it smelled like fuel. Okay, smells like fuel. I'm gonna look inside that cylinder. We looked inside the cylinder and what do you know, it was full of fuel. Let's get our injectors and let's go ahead and swap them out. So we removed the manifold, we removed the fuel rail, which was, let's just say it was fun. And then we swapped over all of the injectors. We put new ones in, we put them in. Then we identified, hey, we should probably do a carbon clean at this time. We're already in there. Let's just go ahead and do it. So we used 2 different techniques. We used the sandblasting and we used the gasoline. Sandblasting, a lot quicker. Fuel, if you don't have access to a blaster, that's the best way to do it with some zip ties and a drill. Took a little bit longer, but hey, it works. Once we did that, we started to put everything back together. The fuel rail went back in. 9 Newton meters is the Torx 30 torque specs right there. We put them in, then we went ahead and put the manifold back in. A little tricky. We make sure that we're pushing it off to the left and sliding it in. That went in. Make sure we're going in a diagonal pattern from center to out. Those are also 9 Newton meters. So we tightened all that down. We put the spark plugs in. We put the throttle body pipe back in. What else did we do? The intake, drained the oil, did an oil change, made sure there was no fuel in the oil, which it wasn't, so that was good. And then plugged everything back up, put new oil in, and we started the car. At first, the car didn't really want to start. There wasn't enough fuel pressure in there, but then once the fuel pressure built up, we were able to start the car, and it ran great. Revved it up a few times, perfectly good, and there was no codes that came back, which makes my heart happy, because that means I plugged everything back in. Thanks for tuning in for part 1, for part 2, and for part 3. Our S3 is ready to go, back on the road. Is there anything else? I don't know. Thanks for tuning in. Till next time.